Hey guys, today we're talking about the U.S. Constitution and some of the major guiding principles that are behind the Constitution and also behind our country's government system. I want to start off by giving you some quick facts about the Constitution. You'll notice that this Constitution that we have was created in 1787, when the country was founded in 1776. So this was not the first Constitution. The first governing work that we had was known as the Articles of Confederation. That was seen by a lot of people as being too weak and didn't really work very well, and so there was a big struggle to create a new form of government, a new constitution, and that is what we have today. And this new constitution that was created in 1787 had three parts. The preamble, which is the intro, gives you the purpose, gives you the basics, what it's going to be all about. Then there's the articles, which are 7 different articles that kind of lay out how the government is going to operate, what the president can do, what the Congress can do, what the court system can do, and all the different jobs of the government. And then lastly, there's the amendments. These are things that have been added since the creation of the Constitution. So these are things that have been added in later to make this Constitution workable and usable, hopefully forever. It's things that you can do, that you can change things, add things, and we've done it 27 times, and we're going to get into a lot of those amendments in this course. All right, we're about to go into the Bill of Rights, and the Bill of Rights is very important. It's the first 10 amendments to the Constitution. But they've been there since the beginning. Since the Constitution was ratified, it was ratified with the intent of having these first 10 amendments with it. And we're going to talk about each of the 10 and why they're important. So starting with the First Amendment is one that you've probably heard of a lot. It's out there in society a lot. Most people know it. Freedom of religion, speech, press, assembly, and petition. So you can say what you want to say. You have the power to assemble. You can petition your government, and freedom of the press. The media has the ability to publish newspapers, TV, radio, internet, to send messages out without fear of persecution from the government. The Second Amendment is known as the right to bear arms. So the right to own a weapon. There are obviously certain restrictions and different things that go into this, depending on where you are, what state, and different things like that. But it's the right to bear arms. The Third Amendment, it says, no soldier shall in time of peace be quartered in any house without the consent of the owner, nor in time of war, but in a manner to be prescribed by law. So basically, leading up to the United States, the American Revolution, the British were forcing American colonists to keep soldiers in their homes, to feed them, give them a place to stay, a bed, all that kind of stuff. And it really irked a lot of the colonists. And so they made sure they put in an amendment into the Constitution that would not allow this to happen in our newly formed country. And a way you can remember this is three's a crowd. So the Third Amendment, creating a crowd in your house, no quartering of soldiers. The Fourth Amendment is going to protect you from unreasonable searches and seizures. So police have to have a warrant to enter your home, or they have to have a good cause, good probable cause to search your car or your person or anything like that. And a good way to remember this is there's 4 doors on a car, and the Fourth Amendment protects you from unreasonable searches and seizures of your car or home or whatever. All right, the Fifth Amendment has a lot of different parts to it, but a few of those parts that I'm going to talk about are, it basically protects people from being held for committing a crime unless they're properly accused or indicted. So you can't just be held in jail for a period of time without them officially charging you and letting you know what that charge is. You also can't be charged for the same crime twice. So once you are found innocent, not guilty of a certain crime. You've had your day in court, you're found not guilty. They can't come back later and say, oh, we have more evidence now, and so we're going to try you again for that same crime. No, that can't happen because of the Fifth Amendment. And you also don't have to incriminate yourself. If you are on trial for a crime, you do not have to take the stand and answer questions about that crime and possibly incriminate yourself. So that's where you hear the term, people will say, I plead the Fifth. It's they're not going to tell you. They're not going to incriminate themselves. They're not going to answer questions about their crime. Okay. All right, the Sixth Amendment, these are rights of the accused, rights of an accused person who's going on trial or whatever. Basically, a few of the things that the Sixth Amendment says are you're guaranteed a speedy trial, an impartial jury, so they have to find a jury that doesn't already think you're guilty, and you have the ability to confront any witnesses that are used against you. So it can't be an unnamed witness secretly telling on you or whatever. They have to come forward and be in the public eye, and you get to confront them. And you have the right to have a lawyer. All right, the Seventh Amendment, it guarantees the right to a trial by jury in a civil trial. Okay, so a civil trial is different than a criminal trial. A criminal trial is the state is bringing a charge against you, like you broke the law. A civil trial is one person is suing another person because they feel like they have been wronged by that person. And the Seventh Amendment guarantees that in certain civil trials, you have the right to have a jury hear your case, a jury of your peers, and decide the case. The Eighth Amendment guarantees that if you are convicted of a crime, that your punishment will be fair, not cruel, not unusual. And so you can remember this by 8, kind of looks like handcuffs if you have it turned the other way. And so the Eighth Amendment are those that are handcuffed, they're convicted of a crime, but their punishment can't be cruel or unusual. All right, the Ninth Amendment is thrown in kind of like a catch-all, so it basically says that all the rights that aren't stated in the Constitution, and they're not illegal, declared forbidden by the Constitution, those rights are given to the people. So basically, you have even more rights than what is spelled out in the Constitution. And you can remember this by 9 means more rights are mine. So even though it's not stated specifically in the Constitution, it is your right as long as it's not forbidden by the Constitution. And the 10th Amendment is thrown in basically to limit the federal government, the big government's power. So the 10th Amendment says that any power that's not given to the federal government, it automatically goes to the state or the people. And so you can remember this by the federal government is restricted to what is written. And so 10 is the 10th Amendment. The federal government can only do what is written in the Constitution. The rest of the power goes to the states and the people. All right, now we're going to take a look at some principles that are behind the Constitution, behind our form of government. And basically what you need to know is a principle is a rule that guides and influences our thoughts and actions. Okay, they guide our decision making. And make sure that you can distinguish the difference between principle and principle, not this kind of principle. Here we have laid out the 7 major American principles. We've got popular sovereignty, federalism, republicanism, separation of powers, checks and balances, amendments, and limited government. We're going to go into each of these here in a moment. Popular sovereignty is up first. So it means people are the source of the government's power. Popular means people. Sovereignty means power. So people, we are the ones that have the power in this country. It's not an all-powerful government. It's the people that have the power. Okay, we vote. We have elections. We have peaceful demonstrations. We have the ability to have the power in this country. The next one is federalism. That means that power is divided. It's not a really big, strong national government and a weak state government, or a really strong state government and a weak national government. It's a mix. Power is divided between different levels. There's national powers, there's state powers, and there's local powers. Okay, so there's different things that each level can do that the others can't. So the federal government can print money, the states can't. The state issues driver's license. That's not a job of the federal government. The federal government declares war. That's not the state's job, and so on. The next principle is the separation of powers. So the government is divided into different branches. Each branch has certain power, has certain jobs that the others don't have. And our three branches are going to be the legislative, the executive, and the judicial. So the legislative branch, their job, that's Congress, they make the laws. They put laws into place. The executive branch, that's the president. The president's job is to enforce the laws that are created by the legislative branch. And then the judicial branch, that's the court system. They interpret the laws. So they decide whether a law is constitutional or unconstitutional, and they make decisions like that. The next principle is checks and balances. We don't want one part of government to become too powerful, and so there are checks and balances that are put into place to keep different branches from becoming too powerful. So the legislative branch has checks over the executive and the judicial, and then the judicial has checks over the legislative and the executive, and so on. So each branch can check up on the others, and they have ways to make sure that the others don't become too powerful. All right, our next principle is republicanism. So republicanism, this is a form of government, a democratic form of government, where you have representatives that are elected as leaders by the people. So the people vote on their leaders, and the leaders run the country. That's a Republican form of government. The next one is going to be limited government. So the government is going to be limited by a document. That document is the Constitution. And remember all those amendments that we just talked about? They talked about what the government can and can't do. They can't search your car without a reason. They can't keep you in jail without telling you what your crime is. They can't limit your freedom of speech, etc. These are all ways that the government is limited. That's a principle that is behind our government. We don't want the government to become too powerful. Amendments is the next principle. This means that you can add on to the Constitution. You can make changes to it. You can morph the Constitution to meet your needs and fit the time that it's in. And as we keep going forward in history, more and more amendments are being added and things are changing to fit the people of this time and to fit the society as it is now. And to finish up, I've got a few other important principles that we need to talk about. The first one is due process. So you have the right to be treated fairly by the government. They can't treat you unfairly. They have to follow procedures, follow rules when dealing with citizens. The next one is rule of law. So no one is above the law. There is a law in place, and everyone has to abide by the law. Even the president, which we'll talk about later when we get into some of the presidents who may feel like they're above the law and what happens to them. And then majority rule. Whoever has the majority votes, that's what happens, okay? And then last but not least, you've got equal protection and the rights of individuals. So even though we do have majority rule, there are protections that are out there for all people. Even if you're in the minority, there are certain things the government can and cannot do against you.